job is to raise issues of the people like unemployment and crisis, and we are doing that.
कि दबाने के बाद ऐसे अपनी फोर्स दिखाने के बाद हम चुपचाप से समझौता करके बस में बैठे क्यों करें हम?
That was just a snapshot of the dramatic scenes in the capital today. So was the detention of 300 plus Congress leaders in the national capital during a protest against inflation and GST undemocratic? Were these pictures of Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi being manhandled and dragged away by the Delhi police pointing to a growing intolerance of political dissent? Was the use of force to this extent necessary? The Delhi police says Section 144 was in place and it was Congress workers who were unruly. So here's what happened exactly through the day. The Congress announced it would be holding protests against price rise, unemployment and the application of GST on food items on the 5th of August. That's today. It's a Black Friday protest. The plan was to march to Rashtrapati Bhavan and the PM residence. They applied for permissions for the protest, which were denied by the Delhi police. In fact, Lutyens was barricaded and Section 144 was put in place. This morning, Rahul Gandhi held a press conference in which he claimed Indian democracy was under threat. He also drew a parallel between Prime Minister Modi's electoral popularity and Hitler's.
हिंदुस्तान में कोई भी व्यक्ति किसी भी पार्टी का नॉन पॉलिटिकल पॉलिटिकल फिल्म स्टार कोई भी अगर सरकार के खिलाफ कुछ बोलता है उस पे हिंदुस्तान के सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन का वजन पड़ जाता है। ये कांग्रेस पार्टी की बात नहीं है। मैंने जो यहां शुरुआत की और देश को शायद ये समझ नहीं आ रही है और आएगी बात, लोकतंत्र आज हिंदुस्तान में नहीं है, खत्म हो गया है। Democracy is now a memory in India. It is nothing more. We have been asking for a discussion on price rise. No discussion was allowed. Practically no discussion is allowed in Parliament. The Chinese troops came into India, they occupy India, no discussion is allowed. Unemployment we want to raise, no discussion is allowed. Price rise, no discussion. Agnipath, no discussion. No discussion is allowed. It is much more beneficial for us to have discussion in Parliament. We demolish the government every single time we have a discussion in Parliament. Right? 1 second. Please let me speak. Right? We demolish the government every... सारे के सारे हिंदुस्तान के इंस्टीट्यूशंस आज आरएसएस बीजेपी के कंट्रोल में हैं। सारे के सारे, एक नहीं बचा है, सारे के सारे। तो जो ऑपोजिशन का आइडिया है, ऑपोजिशन के ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस नहीं, ऑपोजिशन के का जो आइडिया है उस पर आक्रमण हो रहा है।
Response came quickly from the BJP, where senior leader Ravi Shankar Prasad attacked Rahul Gandhi's claim on the lack of democracy in India and said this was an attempt to save the family from ED investigations.
महंगाई और बेरोजगारी एक बहाना है, सही कारण है ईडी को धमकाना, डराना और परिवार को बचाना। सोनिया जी, राहुल जी और प्रियंका जी, यही तो तीन कहानी है। आपकी अगुवाई में कांग्रेस पार्टी बार बार हारती है। कांग्रेस पार्टी को अगर जनता वोट नहीं देती है तो कृपया करके लोकतंत्र पर क्यों आप ठीकरा फोड़ते हैं राहुल गांधी? Why you blame democracy when the people of India reject you with repeated regularity?
So now, after all of this back and forth, the Congress showed up in full strength for the protest, all dressed in black. Women leaders joined Sonia Gandhi with garlands of raw vegetables around their neck to protest the price hike of essentials. But the real fight was yet to begin. Party leaders, led by the Gandhi siblings, began their march and were stopped. This was followed by dramatic visuals of Priyanka Gandhi being pushed. Water cannons were used to stop the protests. Over 300 Congress workers were eventually detained, including 65 MPs. Now, these protests also took place in different parts of the country, with workers coming out in Chandigarh, Mumbai, Chennai, Guwahati and Jammu as well. By evening, Home Minister Amit Shah came out saying the protest was an attempt at appeasement.
हम तो एक मकसद से है ना यहाँ, हमारा मकसद ये है कि हम इनके मंत्री कह रहे हैं इनको महंगाई नहीं दिखती, तो हम पीएम हाउस तक चल के महंगाई दिखाना चाहते हैं, गैस का सिलेंडर दिखाना चाहते हैं जो आज कोई खरीद नहीं सकता है। इतनी महंगाई है, चाहे गरीब हो चाहे मिडिल क्लास के हो, सब तरस रहे हैं, सब तड़प रहे हैं।
Why are they afraid of Srimati Sonia Gandhi? This is the question I ask. Are they so scared? On one side they say we have the faith of the people of India, and the other side they're so scared that they won't let us speak, they won't let us stand, they won't let us walk, they won't.
एक जिम्मेदार पार्टी के नाते कानून का सहयोग देना चाहिए था। ये सारा जो मामला है ये कहीं ना कहीं कोर्ट ने रजिस्टर की हुई एफआईआर के बेसिस पर चला है, मगर हर रोज वो प्रदर्शन करते हैं। जहां तक आज का सवाल जो आपने स्पेसिफिक मुझे पूछा है, मेरा स्पष्ट मानना है कि कांग्रेस ने इसमें हिडन तरीके से अपनी अपीसमेंट की पॉलिसी को आगे बढ़ाया है। आज ईडी ने किसी भी प्रकार का ना किसी को तलब किया है, ना पूछताछ की है, ना कोई रेड हुई है, कुछ नहीं हुआ है। और अचानक ही कांग्रेस ने आज ये कार्यक्रम दिया विरोध का। मैं तो समझ ही नहीं सकता विरोध का कार्यक्रम क्यों आज दिया गया है। और हर रोज जब विरोध के कार्यक्रम होते थे तो अपने अपने ड्रेस में होते थे। आज सभी के सभी लोग काले कपड़े पहनकर करें। मैं मानता हूं कि आज ही के दिन इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने राम जन्मभूमि का शिलान्यास किया था। 550 साल पुरानी ये समस्या का बहुत शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से समाधान निकला था और कहीं पर भी देश में ना दंगा हुआ था, ना हिंसा हुई थी और शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से करोड़ों करोड़ों लोगों की श्रद्धा को परवान चढ़ाने का काम इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री ने किया था। कांग्रेस ने आज का दिन इसीलिए विरोध के लिए और विशेषकर काले कपड़ों में विरोध के लिए सिलेक्ट किया है कि वो एक सटल मैसेज देना चाहते हैं कि हम राम जन्मभूमि के शिलान्यास का विरोध करते हैं और अपनी तुष्टीकरण की नीति को वो आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं। और मैं तो यही कहना चाहूंगा कि तुष्टीकरण की नीति न देश के लिए अच्छी है न कांग्रेस के लिए अच्छी है। तुष्टीकरण की नीति के चलते ही आज कांग्रेस जिस स्थिति में है वो स्थिति में दिखाई पड़ रही है।
All right, this soon got a response from Congress leader Ram Ramesh, who said on Twitter, and I quote, "The Home Minister has made a desperate attempt to divert, distract, polarize and give a malicious twist to today's democratic protests of Congress against price rise, unemployment and GST. It's only a sick mind which can produce such bogus arguments. Clearly, the protests have hit home." Now, at the end of all of this, these are the big questions. Is the Congress justified in saying that the voice of the opposition is being suppressed, or were they simply flouting the law if protests were not granted? Is Rahul Gandhi's statement that democracy in India is a distant memory justified? And is this twist linking the black clothes of protesting Congress leaders to the Ram Mandir movement enough of a political counter? And let's come to the core issue of inflation. Is the government doing enough to make sure the common man is protected? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Priyanka Tibrewal, spokesperson of the Congress Party, Lokesh Jindal, political analyst, Gargi Roy, political analyst, and Sanjay Jha, former Congress leader. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today on the show. Priyanka Tibrewal, let me begin by asking you about this twist which came towards the end of the day, where Home Minister Amit Shah has linked everything to the Ram Mandir Shilanyas. I mean, they've called it a Black Friday protest. Why this twist? Ram Ramesh said it's because, the protests have hit home.
It's not a twist, Tamanna. Very good evening. It is absolutely true what she has said, because since morning, if you have followed the social media, you must have seen that there are a number of tweets, number of posts by all the Ram Bhakts, including me, where we have, said that it's a completion of 1 year of this Ram Mandir ka jo ye eat rakhi gayi thi. But the day was specifically chosen today, and the reason being, it was very, very clear to the Congress that what they have to do is appeasement. That is why they chose the date and specifically the color of mourning. So this morning they didn't want to show that it is only for the Gandhi Parivar who are out on bail.
No, Priyanka ji, the question is that if a political party wants to give a message, why will they be so subtle that nobody can understand it except the party they're fighting against? If it was indeed appeasement, they have to tell people, right? How are they communicating this? It can't be through telepathy. You can't do appeasement through telepathy.
That is what I'm telling you, if you allow me to speak.
Yes,
that is what I'm telling you. Now, so when asked questions which were uncomfortable to them, what did they say? That we are here on public interest, we are here for public issues. Now, all these public issues, and I will call Rahul Gandhi a PTP, a part-time politician. So when he was holidaying all this while, he didn't have any thought about inflation or the price hike. But suddenly, when he is back, he chooses a day, which is today. And suddenly on the streets, we have never seen him doing any kind of protest in black. Why only today? And that too specifically when ED is questioning them.
So is the issue with him being a part-time politician, is the issue with inflation, is the issue with black, or is the issue with August 5th?
See, I have no issues. All the issues are with the Congress. All of them is with the Congress, because it is they who are questioning the judiciary. It is they who are saying that all the institutions of India are under the control of BJP.
So a lot of things together.
By humiliating the judiciary.
I think we should break it one by one.
By questioning the army of the country as well.
No, you've raised all of the issues, and I think we should break it one by one, so it's not confusing to viewers. Let's take it one by one. I want to start with a point of what Home Minister Amit Shah said towards the evening, because, that's the latest. It's the temple twist to the inflation battle, as we've been saying. Sanjay Jha, your response to that. Will this fly? Will this go down as a narrative that why August 5th and why black?
Tamanna, listen, I have done many debates with you, but this has to be the most outrageous, outlandish and obtuse question I have ever had to answer. And you know it and I know it. We have to put up with a straight face.
No, but it's a claim that has been made. It is a claim that has been made. Priyanka Tibrewal is saying it with all earnestness and seriousness. Many people are echoing it already.
But I want to tell you, this is why I admire the thick-skinned and absolutely the brazen way with which the right wing, the RSS, Madam Tibrewal, Madam Roy will talk. I mean, you got to be past master at lying and deception. Let me tell you the truth. The statement made by Amit Shah is so ridiculous, is so absurd, atrocious and preposterous, is so ludicrous that I don't think it deserves the dignity of a response. And if you look at Amit Shah's face closely, he himself seems to be putting on this very theatrical histrionic, because you can imagine what it takes to come up with such outrageous rubbish. Now, to answer the fundamental question, I think democracy in India is dead. RIP democracy. We don't have a democracy. And we are at the moment in a democratically elected dictatorship, and with an illiberal democracy at best. The problem with the BJP, the likes of Madam Roy and Madam Tibrewal, etc., is they believe that democracy is alive, because you know what? We are having elections.
But that's true.
Bhaiya, elections se democracy nahi hota hai.
But
it's about how you run institutions.
Sanjay Jha, if you have free and fair elections, that's one of the pillars of democracy. You have an independent judiciary. It's a pillar of democracy.
It is not. I'll tell you why there is a problem. And that's why the world is seeing the rise of leaders like, one of them being Mr. Modi, who when they get power, because they have been elected by the people, they throttle the institutions. They destroy the opposition. Remember, who said Congress Mukt Bharat? It is the Prime Minister himself. And now they want to celebrate.
But who has done it? It's the Congress themselves. Is anyone forcing voters not to vote for you?
It's the Congress itself has done.
Tamanna, the Congress has had internal problems, and I'm sure Lokesh will respond to that. But the larger issue remains that the BJP wants to destroy institutions, wash the media, stop the right to dissent. They're saying, why are you going on the streets? Well, let me tell you, if you don't allow the parliament to function, where does the opposition go? Look at the way they have treated any voice that has challenged them. Okay. They even call you an anti-national. So I think this is a tragic manifestation of the collapse under Mr. Modi.
Priyanka ji wants to respond, but I'll come to Gargi first. Let everyone get a chance. Let everyone. Let me come to Gargi Roy.
So now
Priyanka ji, let Gargi Roy get a chance. Let Gargi Roy speak. Yeah. Let Lokesh speak, and then we'll come back. Let everyone get opening comments.
Sanjay ji, can I speak?
Yeah. Yes, Gargi Roy. Okay, specific questions. I think we've addressed both sides of the debate when it comes to Kala Kapda and the sort of temple twist. But is it an attempt to move away from the issue of inflation so that today all of us speak about the Kala Kapda, not about inflation? Yes, Ms. Roy.
I think, I think Sanjay Ji gave a big lecture on democracy. Yeah, Sanjay Ji gave a big lecture on democracy. A party, Congress party, which does not have internal democracy, it has suspended Sanjay Jha. Okay, it does not have internal democracy, so it has lost bright people like Hemant Vishwa Sharma or Shahzad Poonawala. That is giving lecture on democracy today. May I please remind Mr. Sanjay Jha that in 2013, the Supreme Court called the CBI a caged parrot speaking in its master's voice. This is the same party which had imposed the emergency when even media persons like you were arrested, leaders like were arrested.
I was not around in emergency times.
And even
Ms. Roy, I was not around in emergency times. I'm not that old.
You are looking, you're talking about democracy.
No. Okay, but on a serious note.
No. I don't know. I'm not talking about you, Tamanna. I'm not saying you what. I'm saying journalists like you, were arrested, and artists were not spared. Even Kishore Kumar was banned. Actors and producers were blocked.
But Ms. Roy, we're talking about today. 1 minute. We're talking about today. We're talking about today, and the Congress's lack or thereof of internal democracy is not relevant to that question. Whether they have democracy or not, which political parties have how much democracy is not relevant to that question.
Madam, आपके पार्टी में किसी को हिम्मत
बोलने दीजिए. Yes, Ms. Roy.
Abuse Modi left, right and center. 1 second, Sanjay Jha, your people abuse Mr. Modi left, right and center. That is the democracy. You have abused him like anything. You have called him talking to chore.
No. See, this is what happens. This is what happens in these political debates. 1 minute. People are asked one question and they start talking about something else. 1 minute. No. Sanjay Jha will not speak because we all speak one-on-one over here. Ms. Roy, listen to me. 1 minute. We should talk about what the topic is.
In democracy, then let me speak. You come after me.
Okay. No, I don't want to come after you. I'm saying whether the Congress is democratic or not is irrelevant. The question is, are we today in a state where any dissent against the government gets punished, gets penalized? That's the point Rahul Gandhi is making. Is that resonating somewhere?
No, it is not. They could have seen when Nirmala Sitharaman was discussing macroeconomics, she had invited inputs. What did Congress do? They disturbed, they walked out. She has given data and Congress is talking about inflation. Inflation is at 7%. In the UPA era, it was 9 for 22 months. It touched double digit 9 times. What is the in 2013 Indian economy was in fragile 5. You are giving lecture. UPA era it turned to fragile 5.
We have already crossed the inflation target extreme limit.
So you are giving...
Lokesh, I have not come to you yet. Lokesh Jindal, I have not come to you yet. Some discipline here, please. Lokesh Jindal, I have not come to you yet and I will come.
You wrote to threaten the ED with...
Okay.
Lokesh, please be democratic here. I'm saying you are politicizing the price issue when you are not seeing the data, the worldwide data you are not seeing. After a pandemic, unseen pandemic, the Ukraine-Russia war, the disruption in supply chain.
No,
so
but don't they have a right to protest price issue? If opposition doesn't protest price issue, people ask what are they doing? Okay, Lokesh Jindal. No, I have a question for Lokesh Jindal. My question for you is, and I was listening to what Rahul Gandhi said this morning. We played out excerpts of that as well. He said, we prefer to debate in Parliament. We demolish them when we debate in Parliament, but we don't get a chance. That's why we came out on this street protest. My question is to Lokesh Jindal, please. My point is, Lokesh Jindal, that there was a discussion in Parliament. And when the finance minister rose to speak, the Congress party walked out. Congress leaders spoke at great length. Manish Tiwari gave a very long speech on price rise. These issues were raised in Parliament. So it's a fallacy, isn't it, to say that you didn't get a chance to speak about it? Yes, Mr. Jindal.
Tamanna, if you look at the economic survey this year and the subsequent budget, we saw that the government, it reduced all the social security nets that were there for the people at large. The MG Narega outlay was reduced. The health sector and education sector percentage was reduced.
But that's
the
not
National
what I'm
Food Security
you.
Act outlay was reduced. The point is, this entire government has not been functioning at the interest of the common man. Now, the finance minister, if she's asked that onion prices are rising, she replies that she doesn't eat onions. Now, are you going to have a ruling party who would simply discard questions like this?
What are you talking?
As an opposition party, we are supposed to hold the executive responsible for all that is taking place in the country. Now, madam, please do not interject. Please let me say. Please let me say.
1 minute. I don't want to be like a school teacher, but one at a time, please. Yes.
The gas cylinder has crossed more than 1,000 rupees.
No, but that's not what I asked you. Lokesh, that's not what I asked you. I would request you to answer what I asked you. I don't know how people do this. No one's answering the question I'm asking. Please, let's restart.
I'm coming to you.
I'm asking that your leader is saying, we didn't get a chance to speak in Parliament, that's why we're on the streets. I'm asking you, did you truly not get a chance to speak in Parliament? Couldn't you have raised all of this in Parliament? Why all the drama on the streets?
Our 4 MPs who tried to divert the attention to the core issues, they were expelled out of the Parliament. And subsequently, whenever any form of at the 0 hour also, at a star hour also, whatever petitions are being submitted, they are being discarded away. Now, when such forms of unparliamentary democratic practices are going to take place, how are we supposed to bring to attention of the government the core issues that are taking place? How are we supposed to bring the plight of a common man to the notice of the government? Now, if you talk about the edible oil, the entire edible oil is imported by India and the currency has devalued. It is 80 rupees per dollar. Now, if edible oil is so costly, sarson ka tel, almost all forms of oils, vegetables, tomatoes, everything is so costly. How is a common man supposed to live? And here we are having, even the Chief Justice of India himself pointed out that institutions...
2 speeches and lengthy speeches speaking about this in Parliament. If there is an issue, can this not be brought out? That is the question we're asking today, Lokesh. And your response to what the Home Minister is saying. Ravi Shankar Prasad said it has nothing to do with inflation. It's about the Enforcement Directorate action against the Gandhis. And Amit Shah says it's August 5th, black clothes appeasement. Your response to these 2 points?
Mr. Amit Shah gave a complex to comedy nights with Kapil. Let me tell you, he was like that ACP Pradyuman. Kuch to gadwad hai daya. I mean, how ridiculous it was. I mean, imagine some form of a distinct. I don't know how he connects the anecdotes and what form of correlation and all he does. But it was really funny. I mean, like he gave people of India reason to smile in these tough times. And regarding the other gentleman, let me tell you, outrightly, he is simply trying to divert the attention of the entire masses at large. The government, if it is serious, it should come to business, it should come to table. It should tell what it has done. All its policies have been failure. Demonetization is a failure. Make in India is a failure. National Skill Development Mission has been a failure.
Okay, Priyanka
GST has not been implemented properly.
Again, those who are on vacations and holidays and those who leave the table and walk out, now they are saying that they want to discuss. They were welcome to discuss. Mr. Lokesh, hear me out. I did not speak when you were speaking. You have the patience to hear out. Yes. So Mr. Lokesh was thinking that it was Pradyuman and whatnot. He was talking and he was saying, it's quite absurd. Yes, it is. When he is so worried about inflation and the rates, but he is not worried. He doesn't want the people of India to know that how 50 lakh becomes 2,000 crore. They get very irritated with these questions because these are uncomfortable truth to them. See, I am not saying so. It is Mr. Lokesh, allow me to speak. I did not speak.
One at a time, guys. We're not trying to put up entertainment, please. One at a time.
I will scream and not allow you to speak a single word then.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Madam, let us be democratic.
Lokesh, Lokesh, don't do that. Lokesh, don't do that.
What did he say?
Let her finish her point.
Was quite clear.
But Priyanka ji, please make one point. No, okay, Priyanka ji, finish your point, but make one specific point, not 15 things together.
That is what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's a specific point. That whatever they are saying, it's the issue is not price rise. That's just an alibi. What was said by Salman Khurshid today proved everything. That we are out on the streets to save our netas because their necks are hanging in the hand of ED. That is the issue. That is what they are talking about.
But how is going out on the street?
Along.
Okay, again, I want to question the logic of it because, you know, I understand politics is about emotion, it's about putting through a narrative, it's about, you know, convincing your voter base that what you're saying is true, but there has to be some logic to it. How will the Congress hitting the streets save the Gandhis from the ED? How? The ED, is it going to stop? Is it going to stop?
Right.
Are you saying they're going to stop?
So what does it mean?
No, they just
What does it mean when you say all institutions of... Either you allow me to speak, madam, once your question is done.
No, that was Gargi Roy who's interrupting you, not me. But
okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry because, you know, when someone is speaking over you, you can
because you
hardly
heard a
hear
female
who's
voice.
speaking.
No, 1 minute. One at a time. Guys, one at a time. I'm telling you, we'll have a much better discussion. Yes, Priyanka Tibrewal.
Yeah. So when, during the press conference, Rahul Gandhi says that all the institutions of India are run by the BJP and the RSS.
Yes.
What does he mean to say? Which are these institutions? Is it the judiciary? Is it the army or all of them? And if he's saying all of them, that means that whatever decisions are being given by the Supreme Court, he does not abide by them and he thinks those decisions are not correct. But of course, we understand that when 420 and 120B are not quashed, they are uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable. That is why they are pointing out all the fingers towards these agencies to show that they are not working independently.
Okay.
Priyanka ji.
Okay. Lokesh, respond.
Priyanka ji, what is the conviction rate of ED? What is the percentage conviction rate of ED? It is 0.5%. Up till now, the ED which has filed more than 5,000 cases, hardly 23 people have been convicted. So there is no threat. हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता in ED के संबंध से. Let me tell you very clearly. We are out on the street for the masses, for a common man. And inflation, if you're talking about, let me tell you, no matter how much of planning is done, but in the long run, all of us are dead. So when we are talking about a common man, the
Lokesh,
whole
can I ask
idea
you
is
a
the
serious
polity of the
question?
country at large must make sure that
Lokesh,
he
can I
must have a
ask you
sleep
a
with a
serious
full
question?
stomach.
Will you take a question from me, Lokesh?
Please,
How
please.
will your protest today, how will the protest today, how will all the, you know, dramatic pictures and yes, there should be no pushing and shoving, but the Delhi police says that 144 was flouted. How will all of that help with the issue of inflation? How will
You
it
saw
help?
that the Home Minister had to come out of his castle and give a reason to smile to the masses by claiming that हमारा मुद्दा गलत नहीं है, ये राम मंदिर का issue है. Now, this shows that the government, it is shaken.
How will that help
The
with
government is
inflation?
shaken. Now the government would be forced to reform its policies. It has to make sure that its policies are not in the interests of the corporates at large, but it are in the interest of the common masses. It needs to reduce down the GST percentage.
Sanjay, and you know this, is because I'm an economic journalist, so I understand these things. That how will this protest actually help inflation? Can the government do anything beyond it already is to really curb inflation? Today, the Reserve Bank of India increased interest rates by 50 basis points. That is the that is the basic first step that every central bank takes. The Bank of England increased interest rates by 50 basis points yesterday. So, Sanjay Jha, I'm asking you this now. How will these protests help? How will these protests actually help?
When he questioned me
let me
about
keep that stream of thought. Priyanka Tibrewal, let me keep the stream of thought, otherwise it gets fuzzy.
So
1 minute.
9,900 which comes
1 minute.
to the economy will definitely benefit the common man. Then the 2,000 crore.
No,
which
I
has
don't know
gone
what
to
you
the
said, ma'am,
Gandhi
because you were
family.
talking over me. Give me a second and then I'll come to you so that we have a clear conversation. Sanjay Jha, you know this. How will these protests help? Would it not have made more sense? And this is to actually make a difference if the Congress, with its wealth of experience, you have a P. Chidambaram, a former finance minister over there, puts together a plan and says, this is our suggestion as an opposition party. Let's find a bipartisan solution to inflation. Do we need to increase aid to the lower strata of society? Do we need to put more cash in the hands of people so their spending power is there? Do we need to go beyond this scheme of free grain, which is on till September? Can we afford to go beyond that? Why aren't we hearing all of these constructive solutions coming up, Sanjay?
Tamanna, let me tell you, the very fact that today the RBI has increased the repo rate again, it is basically an exhibition of why Nirmala Sitharaman in Parliament was actually wrong in saying that no, everything is hunky-dory. It is not. With this very fact that the repo rate has gone up is proof that India's inflation is worrying. And not just the wholesale inflation, we are talking about retail consumer price index as well, number one. Number two, the BJP and Nirmala Sitharaman have been going to town saying that relatively India's inflation is not as bad compared to the Western world. Can you really compare India's social security network or its architecture with that of the US or the UK, which have a national health service, unemployment benefits, certain minimum standard of compensation given? You can't. There is a world of difference. Here, you have 350 million people below the poverty line. You are facing record unemployment. Under the BJP, Tamanna, you and I have discussed it on your show. India's youth story is a demographic disaster. The demographic dividend story is over. Soon you and I will be discussing how will we handle the aging population of senior citizens. The story is lost. And therefore, we have to worry about the fact that India's GDP growth rate.
But my question is, why can't the opposition party give a constructive set of solutions and suggestions?
Can I answer that, Tamanna?
Will that not help better? Lokesh, quick response, and I'm going to Priyanka. Yes, Lokesh.
Tamanna, the Congress party already pointed out the government need to strengthen MSMEs because it is one of the greatest employers of the country. However, in the budget, the government did not give any heed to MSMEs and tourism sector. That was also criticized in the subsequent sessions, that the tourism sector, which had been hard hit, hospitality sector, education sector, these were ignored by the government. The point is the government only came out with some form of jumlas like organic farming, and it gave all forms of came out with policies for the corporate sector in the name of supply chain, but it had left the demand side completely unaffected. That is why even after the budget was introduced, P. Chidambaram himself pointed out that it was only a supply-based budget.
Question that on inflation, why has inflation become this hot button issue? Because the sense is that yes, there were two speeches and there was a statement saying, yes, we know there's inflation, but we're doing our best. It's better than the rest of the world, too bad. That there was not enough cognizance of how inflation hits the poor in this country.
Yes. Whatever Mr. Sanjay Jha was saying now, all blames to Congress, because wherever India couldn't reach is because of the Congress. 70 years they were busy doing nothing.
From 2004 till 2015, we showed you what is 9%. Don't teach us economics.
1 minute. No one else will speak. No one else will speak except the person who has been asked a question.
Because they have done nothing in the last 70 years. So whatever we are doing, and they should be thankful to the government, even that they are alive today.
Ms. Tibrewal, this is the arrogance I was talking about. You're again saying that it's the Congress's fault that inflation is at 7%. But earlier in the show, you said it's because of Russia, Ukraine. So which one is it?
See, that is what I'm saying. These questions, whatever they want today, is media the platform? Why not the parliament? They do not sit. They do not answer the questions there. Rather, they are busy because their netas are busy holidaying.
No, I mean, netas holidaying or not, I mean, that the point is that they have to, if the Congress wants to really milk this politically, they have to show some kind of plan apart from a flash in the pan one-day strike. Will that continue or not? We'll have to see. I've run out of time. I'm sorry, Gargi Roy, but I've run out of time. Priyanka Tibrewal, Lokesh Jindal, Sanjay Jha, thank you all for joining us on the show today. I don't know if much came out of it, but the fact is that inflation is an important issue. Unemployment is an important issue. These need to be raised. We need to talk about what we can do beyond the steps that are already taking place. A constructive discussion on this is maybe what the people of this country actually deserve. That's a question to ponder. Now, moving on to the other big story.